Hello, everybody. I'm Miss Angie, and I'm back again with continuing with A Wrinkle in Time. And we are reading and craft with recreation. So the first time we was here, I read the first 3 chapters of A Wrinkle in Time by Madeline England. And it's basically about a family called the Murray family who somehow mysteriously their father was missing in action. And through 3 guardian angels, Mrs. Who, Mrs. What, and Mrs. Which, they are the ones who help them find Mr. Murray. So we're starting back now with chapter 4. And I'm just basically doing the summary of each chapter so you can get a good feel and idea of what the whole novel is about. So we started with chapter 4 called The Black Thing. Meg suddenly feels herself torn apart from Charles and Calvin and thrust into silent darkness. She tries to cry out to them, but finds she does not even have a body, much less a voice. Suddenly she feels her heart beating again and sees that Charles and Calvin shimmer back into the material presence. Mrs. Whatsits, Mrs. Who, and Mrs. Which informs the children that they're on the planet Uriel. When Calvin inquires into their mode of travel, Mrs. Whatsits explains that they do not travel at any one speed, but rather tesser or wrinkle through space. So they're up in space right now. Meg wonders if this term relates to the Tesseract that Mrs. Whatsits mentioned earlier. Mrs. Whatsits tells the children that the life of their father is threatened and that they're on their way to him. But first, they have to stop to learn what they're up against. Mrs. Who's permission, Mrs. Whatsits transforms herself into a beautiful creature with a horse body and a human torso. Calvin falls to his knees in shameless devotion, but Mrs. Whatsits says no, for this unthinking worship of her. The children climb on Mrs. Whatsits' back, and she flies across the fertile fields in a great plateau of genetic-like rock. Below, beautiful creatures perform a musical dance in a garden, and Mrs. Whatsits translates their music into the words of the biblical verses of Isaiah 42:10-12. Meg is overcome with joy and instinctively reaches out for Calvin's hand. As they travel upward through the atmosphere, Mrs. Whatsits hands them each clusters of flowers and tells them to breathe through them when the air becomes too thin. As they travel through the clouds of Uriel, Mrs. Whatsits shows them a view of the universe not observable from Earth. The children sees a great white disk that Mrs. Whatsits identifies as one of the Uriel's moon and watch a sunset and moonset. Then above the clouds, they see a blackness that seems to envelop all the stars around it. Meg knows instinctively that the shadow is the most concentrated form of evil she has ever seen. For it's not cast by any object, but it is a thing itself. When they return to the flowery fields beneath, Meg walks directly up to Mrs. Which and asks if the dark thing they saw is what her father is fighting. Chapter 5, The Tesseract. In response to her questioning, Mrs. Which informs Meg that her father is trapped behind the darkness. Mrs. Whatsits assures her that they are traveling to help him. She explains that they travel by tessering, which involves taking shortcuts through time and space. Seeing that Meg remains confused, Charles Wallace explains that tessering is traveling in the 5th dimension. The first dimension is a line. The second is a square. The third is a cube. The fourth is Einstein's concept of time. And the 5th is a tesseract. By adding the tesseract to the other 4 dimensions, they travel in such a way that the shortest distance between 2 points is not a straight line. Although Meg does not completely understand, she contents herself with their explanation. A gust of wind blows the children up, and as their body dissolves beneath them, Meg and the other finds themselves tessering. Suddenly, Meg feels herself stopping. Her lungs flatten under a tremendous pressure, and she hears a voice saying that the travelers cannot stop now because they are on a two-dimensional planet. Mrs. Witch apologizes to the children for her mistake, noting that she is not used to thinking in a corporate way. She forgets that human bodies cannot exist in two dimensions. Mrs. Wutsis explains that they are traveling to a foggy gray planet in the belt of constellation Orion. Meg expresses concern that her mother will be worried about them back on Earth, but Mrs. Wutsis assures her that they have taken a time wrinkle as well as a space wrinkle. They will arrive back home 5 minutes before they ever left. Arriving on the foggy planet, the group enters a cave where Mrs. Wutsis introduced the children to the happy medium, a jolly woman in a silk turban and satin gown, bearing a crystal ball. Mrs. Wutsis asked the happy medium to show the children their home planet, but the medium is reluctant to look at something so unpleasant. Meg, Charles, and Calvin sees a vision of their planet in which it is surrounded by the dark thing that they first saw on the atmosphere above Uriel. Mrs. Witch explains that the dark thing is the pure evil that they will have to fight. She assures them that they are not alone. They join a legacy of warriors against the dark thing, the greatest of which have also been earthlings. Jesus da Vinci, Shakespeare, Einstein, Bach, and Gandhi. Impatient, Meg asks about her father. Miss Witch informs her that he is held captive on a planet that has cultivated to the dark thing. Chapter 6, The Happy Medium. The happy medium next uses her crystal ball to show the children a battle between the dark thing and the stars. Mrs. Wutsis explains that they have just witnessed a star sacrificing its life to fight the dark thing. And Charles Wallace correctly guesses that Mrs. Wutsis was once a star who gave up her central existence in this way. The children are deeply moved by her sacrifice, and Charles Wallace kisses her in tokens of their gratitude. The happy medium wishes to leave the children with a more pleasant vision before they depart. So despite Mrs. Witch, she provides them with a glimpse of their mothers. Calvin's mother, however, is spanking one of her little ones with a wooden spoon, and Meg sees this and reaches out to Calvin compassionately. Mrs. Murray is busy writing her daily letter to her husband, a sight that brings tears to Meg's eyes. After saying goodbye to the happy medium, the group tessers to the planet of Camazotz, where Mr. Murray is imprisoned. They stand on a hill overlooking a town, and Mrs. Wutsis, Mrs. Witch, and Mrs. Who informs them that they will not be able to accompany the children into the town. Instead, they supply each children with a gift that will help them in their battle. Mrs. Wutsis' gifts are rarely mere enhancement of traits that the children already possesses. She reinforces in Meg her own faults, strengthens Calvin's ability to communicate with people of all different types. And in Charles Wallace, it is the nature of the reliance of his childhood. Mrs. Who gives Meg her thick, funny spectacles. Calvin, an excerpt from Shakespeare, The Tempest, and Charles, a quotation from Goethe. Mrs. Witch gifts to all three children is the common command that they go down into the town and stay strong together. Mrs. Wutsis tells Calvin to take care of Meg and warns Charles that of all the children, he will be the most susceptible to the danger of the Camazotz. The three children leave their supernatural companion and descends the hill into the town. In Camazotz, Every house is the exact same size, shape, and color. In front of each house, children bounces balls and skip rope rhythmically that seems to govern the whole town. One boy drops his ball, and when the children knock on the door to return it to the mother, she is horrified by this admiration. The children are then confronted by a paper delivery boy on a bicycle who asks them what they are doing out of doors. He informs them that they live in the most oriented city in the planet, governed by it, in the Central Intelligence. When the boy rides off, Charles Wallace notes that he seems to talk as though the words were not his own. Charles concentrates very hard to try to listen to the thoughts of these people, to figure out who they are. But all he hears is a steady pulsing. Chapter 7, The Man with the Red Eyes. Calvin wants to enter the Central Intelligence building by himself and then report back to Meg and Charles Wallace. But the Murray children insist that they heed the parting words of Mrs. Witch and stay together. Just as they are trying to figure out how to enter the building, a door opens before them, revealing a great entrance hall of dull, greenish marble and icy cold walls. Filling the hall are a number of similar-looking men wearing nondescript business suits. The children decide to ask one of the suited men how things work in Central. The man instructs them to present their papers to a series of slot machines. He seems unable to understand the fact that they are strangers to the planet and do not know anything about the elaborate mechanical system governing all transaction and interactions. He says that he runs a number 1 spelling machine on the 2nd grade level. He warns that he will have to report the children to the authorities in order to avoid the risks of repossessing. Before he leaves, he advises them, just relax and don't fight it, and it will all be much easier to you. The marble walls in front of the children suddenly dissolves, and they find themselves in an enormous room lined with machines and their robot-like attendants. At the end of the room, they approach a platform on which a man with red eyes is seated in a chair. Above his head, a glowing light pulsates with the same rhythm as his red eyes. The children immediately sense that the cold blackness from this man is the same as that indulged by the dark thing. And Charles Wallace instructs Meg and Calvin to close their eyes, lest the man hypnotize them. The man tries to do so by having them recite the multiplication tablets rhythmically with him, but Charles and Calvin resist by shouting out nursery rhymes and the Gettysburg Address, respectively. The man speaks directly into the children's brains without opening his mouth or moving his lips. He asks the children why they want to see their father, unable to understand that the sheer fact that he is their father is reason enough. Suddenly, Charles darts forward and kicks the man. He believes that the man is somehow not in full possession of himself. The man tells Charles that of all the children, he is the only one endowed with a neuropsychological system complex enough to understand him. Charles must look into the man's eyes in an attempt to identify him. The man with the red eyes serves the children with an elaborate turkey dinner. But to Charles, all the food tastes like sand. The man explains that the food is synthetic, but Charles will be able to taste it if only he would open his mind to it. He invites Charles to come with him and learn who he really is. And Charles agreed in spite of Meg's strong potential that the man stares into Charles Wallace's eyes until the boy's pupils fade into the surrounding blue iris. Once from the man's hypnotic stare, Charles acted like a different person. He asked Meg why she is being so belligerent and uncooperative and bids her to eat the food prepared for them, which he now claims is delicious. Horrified, Meg shrieks to Calvin that the boy beside them is no longer Charles and that the Charles they knew is gone. Chapter 8. The Transparent Column. Charles Wallace now is the grip of it. Sits eating his turkey dinner. He tells Meg and Calvin that the man with the red eyes is their friend and that the Mrs. W's are the enemies. They realize that this is not the real Charles Wallace speaking and grabs his arm in an attempt to release the real person trapped within. They tell the man with the red eyes that they know that it is he who is speaking through Charles. The man identifies himself as the prime coordinator and tells them that Charles will lead them to Mr. Murray. Charles leads Meg and Calvin down a long white corridor. As they walk, Meg is reminded of Mrs. Watts's gift to Calvin, which is the ability to communicate. She encouraged him to try to speak with her brother. For a moment, Calvin's tone of friendliness seems to reach Charles Wallace, but then the boy drifts away again. Charles tells them that instead of searching for Mr. Murray, they should turn themselves over entirely to it, whom he identifies as the boss and the happiest, saddest. He extols the virtue of it and declared that on Camazotz. The total conformity prevent all war of unhappiness. Meg notes that sometimes a little bit of unhappiness is a necessary precondition for happiness. Suddenly, Charles waved his hand and the wall of the corridor grows transparent to reveal a small room radiating a dull light. In response to Meg questioning, Charles says that he simply moved around the wall atoms to make it open. He shows Calvin and Meg another room in which the little boy that they saw that afternoon is bouncing a wall to a pulsing rhythm, winching with pain each time the ball hits the ground. Charles explains that it is a punishment for the boy's earlier defiance. Then he shows Meg and Calvin another small cell in which stands a transparent cylinder or column. Mr. Murray sits trapped inside. Chapter 9. I will read this last summary. Meg rushes forward to her father in his column, but she cannot penetrate its surface, and her father cannot see or hear her. In frustration, she hurls herself at Charles, but he punches her in the stomach. Calvin nearly releases the real Charles by reciting the lines from Shakespeare, The Tempest, which Mrs. Who gave him. But Charles ultimately remains enthralled. Finally, at wit's end, Meg remembers Mrs. Who's spectacles. By putting them over her eyes and throwing herself at the column, she successfully gets through to her father and stands by his side. Mr. Murray is overjoyed at his daughter's arrival. though he cannot see her until he puts on Mrs. Who's spectacles. By wearing the spectacle and carry Meg's in his arm, he is able to escape the column with her. When they emerge, Charles Wallace behaves insolently and obnoxiously towards his father, and Meg assures her father that this is not the real Charles Wallace. Charles tells them that he must take them immediately to it. Mr. Murray is horrified and insists that Meg will not be able to survive the encounter. However, they have no choice but to follow the youngest Murray child. Charles leads them out of the Central Intelligence Building and into a strange, doom-like, edifying, pulsing with a violent groan. Inside, Meg feels a steady pulsing that seems to force the beating of her heart to conform to its rhythm. The building contains nothing but the feel of the pulse and a round central dell containing a revoluting large living brain. Mr. Murray shouts out to Calvin and Meg that they must not give in to it, romantic control. Meg tries to shout out the Declaration of Independence, the periodic table, and the irrational square roots, but her mind nonetheless begins to slip into it control. Seeing that Meg is about to lose to it, Calvin commands everyone to Tesser. Mr. Murray grabs his wrist, and Meg feels herself torn apart in the whirlwind of tessering. It's the end of chapter 9. We're going to stop here at chapter 9, and we will finish next time. So now we're going to go and do some craft with Miss Destiny.
Thank you, Miss Angie, for reading A Wrinkle in Time. So today we're going to go into our craft and we're going to do slime. So here we have our shaving cream, we have our glitter, we have some food coloring, some glue, we have soap powder, and some sticks, some popsicle sticks. Right here in this bowl is my example of the slime that we're going to make today. So I'm going to take this out of the bowl. Okay, so here's our slime. So first, you're going to use your glue. You're going to put your glue inside your bowl. But once you use your glue, make sure it's Elmer's glue and it's this size, okay? Cut the top off and it has to be full. Okay, so here we have our popsicle stick and we're gonna get all the glue out that we can. The best glue to use is Elmer's. Okay, we have all of our glue out. So next you're gonna add your shaving cream. It does not matter what shaving cream you use, so I'm gonna use this one. Then we're going to use the stick that we used to get all of our glue out. We're going to mix our glue and our shaving cream in one. Make sure you don't use that much shaving cream, okay? So here we have our shaving cream and our glue mixed. So now we're going to add our soap powder. Arm & Hammer is the best soap powder you use, but you can use any soap powder that you would like to use. So here I have my top full, halfway. You don't even need that much, okay? Just gonna pour it in just a little bit at a time. So you see how it's all coming together? Keep stirring. And if you need to, add some more soap powder. Just keep on mixing. So my consistency isn't together. So we're just gonna keep adding soap powder. A little bit at a time, okay? If you want to use gloves to take your slime out of your bowl, that's fine, you don't have to. Okay. And to kind of see if your slime is coming together, just kind of do this. And if you can pull like this and it comes off your hand, then that's fine. So as you can see that the slime isn't coming off my hand, so I'm gonna add just a little bit more soap powder. Mix it up really good. Okay, so I'm gonna try to take it out the bowl. Kind of go back and forth like this. So I know a lot of people don't like to get their hands dirty, but the ones that does, it's fine. Just kind of go back and forth. It should be able to come off your hands very easily. Back and forth. Kind of work your slime out just a little bit. And if you want to, because it's a little thick, you're able to add just a little bit more of your soap powder. Go back and forth really quickly. Okay. And as you do this, pull the slime off of your hands so it's a little bit easier for you to grab anything else that you're using. Okay. I'm gonna add some food coloring. You can use any color. I have blue here. Add just a few drops. Keep it in your bowl and mix it. So once the food coloring is mixed up in there, just pull the slime back out of your bowl and just keep going back and forth. So like my hands are blue. So make sure if you want to, you can use gloves. You don't have to. But once you're finished, make sure you wash your hands really good. Kind of go back and get the slime off your hands. Okay. So then I'm gonna put my slime back into my bowl. And I'm gonna add just a little bit of glitter. Again, you can use any color food coloring. You can use any color glitter that you have. Just kind of go back and forth. I'm gonna add my, that's not coming off right now. And there you have it, you have your slime. So since the slime is still thick, you're able to use more soap powder. And that soap powder is your activator. And there we have it, your slime. Thank you for watching Reading and Crafting with Rick. Have a good day.